Hello and welcome to Elite Week, episode 33. Today is Wednesday, August 26th, 2020, or 3306 for those of you living in the verse. It's an exciting day. Today I have with me Alasdair, his friends call him Al, Hibberd, who is the product manager for Elite Dangerous at Frontier Developments, or at Frontier. I'm so used to saying Frontier Developments, but you guys are now just Frontier. Hello and welcome, Al.
Thanks very much. Good to be here.
Beautiful. All right. And of course, we have to start this off right. There's mine. Al, go ahead and pop yours and we can get this party started.
Did you get that? Was that loud enough?
Oh, it didn't come across, but that's all right.
Oh no, I can't go again either. It's open now.
That's all right.
I've got a Norada Pale Ale, which is from one of the little breweries in Norfolk in England. So
very nice. So all of you playing along at home, if you have the opportunity, give it a try. And that's your last one left over from your big hike. I was seeing pictures on Twitter of your hike. You guys did like that, what was it, like 15 miles or kilometers?
Yeah, we did a 15-mile hike and camp over the weekend on a path, a very old path called the Ridgeway, which connects to the Icknield Way, which actually is if you want to go back in history, it's one of the only trade route paths in England that was under the King's protection in the Middle Ages. So if you got robbed along that path, then the robbers would answer to the king, and he would make sure that the law was enforced. It was kind of one of those strange historical routes in the UK. But I have digressed.
That's some super interesting stuff. You guys live in like a magical world where all kinds of that shit, went down.
We basically live in the Lord of the Rings.
Man.
If you've seen that, I mean, like I'm sure there are hobbits running around somewhere.
Clearly, when I was stationed over there, I was at RAF Mildenhall in Lake and Heath. And
that's literally like 10 minutes from my house, man. I live in Newmarket.
Oh, beautiful! I know exactly where that is. Yeah, the train station.
Yeah. Literally, that's like 3 minutes walk from my house.
I know exactly where that is. That's super, super weird and cool. All right. So let me ask you, Al, how did you come to Frontier? I mean, I know that you were with an indie games company, right? Wired, and you made the jump over here. That's a big jump. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I had been in gaming for coming up to 5 years. I kind of... Previously, I was working in consumer electronics and component sales, which was super fun times. But my job back then got moved out to the Far East, and I had a bit of time to contemplate what I was going to do next, and I got an opportunity to start working in games, which for me is kind of a lifelong dream. But for like a lot of people, I never really pinpointed the entry point, how to get into the industry. And when I went for that interview, that I kind of got the inevitable, wow, you're glowing from ear to ear. Why aren't you doing this already? So I spent 4.5 years in indie publishing at Wired. Probably some of the bigger titles that you might recognize. I worked on Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn. I worked on Grit Combat Racing, and I worked on last year a game called Deliver Us the Moon from the awesome Kaioken Interactive. They're kind of three of a plethora of titles that I worked on across my time at Wired, and during that time I kind of worked pretty flat out to kind of try and get every ounce of energy out of everything. So I kind of we ran a really good campaign on Grit. I kind of the marketing team won a best marketing campaign under £500,000 from the kind of games industry trade body. So I kind of was building up from there and doing well, and then I saw there was a role at Frontier, and for me, I kind of grew up playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. So they were very much a company that was always on my radar, a developer that was always on my radar, and when the opportunity came up, I couldn't wait. I thought it was fantastic, and I kind of arrived, and then it was, hey, do you want to work on Elite Dangerous? And I was like, yes.
How do you say?
How would you say no to that? I mean, it's looking at the kind of the heritage of the franchise. It's as old as Super Mario. Saying that really puts it in perspective, but almost kind of underplays it a little bit. Not that I'm taking anything out of Mario, but the kind of side-scrolling platform genre was something which existed back then. But if you look at Elite and look at what Elite pioneered as the kind of the first real open world game, there was nothing like it. So for me as a bit of a gaming historian as well, because I collect retro games, I think like to work on a franchise with such a legacy is huge. I cannot underestimate the privilege that I feel from being able to work on this.
Yeah, it's not just that it was a huge hit, which it was, of course, but it's that it was what it was a hit for. It was a hit because when the entire industry was just putting out further iterations on sort of a simple, basic premise, David Braben and I always say it wrong. Is it Ian Bell or Alan Bell? I mix up them. Ian. I mix up. There's one was the guy from Elite, and the other was the guy from that show. What was it? Fringe. But that was the alternate bad guy universe dude. But anyways,
I don't know Fringe.
Great show. Great show. It went like 6 seasons. There's an alternate universe. It's some real weird, cool sci-fi stuff. I'll link you afterwards. You have to go check it out because it's really, really good stuff. It's like the X-Files and Lost had a baby. It's real good weird sci-fi. But anyways, what David Braben and Ian Bell did with Elite was they saw what the entire industry was doing and said, yeah, we're going to go in every possible way the other way. This is not built for 10-minute increments. This is not keeping track of your lives. This is not, whatever. This is like your score is actually money and you can trade it to obtain things, and they went a whole different way. So like you said, it's not just that it's a big hit. You could have a big hit. You can have the next Call of Duty or the next whatever, and it's like, oh my God, it made more money than anything ever. And it's like, cool. And it's cool as an iteration of whatever. But then when you have a guy who does a thing like, and I'm a huge fan of Billy vs. the Moon. I love that little quirky game that went in a different direction. And I'm putting in a quick plug here for anybody who hasn't checked it out. Check it out. They do Steam sales on it fairly often. And Down to Earth Astronomy and Rusty Dog have both put out, they're really good Elite streamers. They've also both put out Deliver Us the Moon content in the last couple of months. And it's such a neat story game. It's this quirky little thing that's completely different. And I absolutely love when people say, oh, that's cool. You're making, everybody's making, clones of the Prius. I'm going to go over here and make a weird, funky 3-wheel truck that, I'm going to go make a Citroen Duck. I'm going to go do something that's completely different than everyone. I love that.
Not to digress, but just to give them a little shout out, the developers from that game, Kaoken Interactive, the kind of the two brothers that kind of founded the studio, they grew up with astronomy. So their grandfather actually used to design telescopes and was a telescope engineer, and he used to come and kind of wake them up in the middle of the night and take them out to look at the stars or look at the comet passing, and kind of take them out to the countryside in their pajamas to watch this stuff. And so I think for them, space is really kind of ingrained in their person. And I think that made for a really special experience, and you can see that all the way through. So definitely, like, keep an eye on that studio. They do some incredible stuff. They also like have a trailer audio production company, and they make some kind of soundtracks for pretty big Hollywood movie trailers. So I would they're definitely guys to keep an eye on for sure.
And I'm a huge story nerd, which I'm sure comes as a surprise to no one. And just the hook of that story, and I'm not giving anything away for later in the story, but just the premise of it that's in the first little pre-trailer when you first start. The idea is, you know, the Earth has continued to evolve technologically, and we're kind of ahead of where we're at with current technology or whatever. But then it hits a point, they set up this station on the moon that is like generating power, and it's this amazing, like, oh my God, we have free power now. It's so good. And they're beaming it back down to Earth. But then there's a setback, technologically speaking. And now all of a sudden we've regressed. We've lost access to that sort of advanced energy. And your job is go figure it out, go get it up and running, go make it work. And that to me has a very sort of interstellar type, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. It has such a great feel of the idea of, I love sci-fi stuff, but I also love things that are sort of gritty, and I love stuff that's more like the Interstellar or the Expanse, as opposed to, you know, and I love Star Trek, but the idea where it's like everything is great and everybody is wonderful and everything works in, you know, whatever, and it's kind of like, okay, I dig stuff that has these weird little story hooks of like, we've lost something and we're trying to get it back or whatever.
I think the kind of, you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, and kind of on top of that, obviously you've got the kind of the scorched earth dynamic in it, where Earth really isn't able to produce its own energy, and so things are really on the line. And I think that kind of resonates particularly in 2020 when we're talking about things like climate change as well. I think that kind of really resonates with a huge amount of people. So it's awesome. It's really that one of my favorite games that I've worked on for sure.
Absolutely. And bringing it back to Elite also has that feel where it's a very, you know, it's the future, it's in space, but it's not whitewashed Starfleet, everybody's happy dory, you know, hunky dory. It has a very real, very human, very sort of expansive feel of, there's a lot of different people that all don't like each other. They all think they're the good guy. And, you know, everybody's just, in the end, people are just getting by as best they can. And I dig stuff that has that more human feel to it, you know?
Absolutely. And I think the choice that is offered to commanders almost moralistically in a lot of regards within the game, I think really makes it unique. So I think there are a lot of games out there that kind of sell you as this kind of hero that's going around and beating up all the bad guys, and I think that the reality of it is that it kind of a very good friend of mine and another game developer kind of sells this as, we're kind of bringing up a generation where everyone thinks they're the hero. And actually people are gonna kind of snap round and realize that they're their own villain in a way. and it's kind of, you know, this is something that we're all going to have to realize, because we're all growing up playing these games, buying into this mythology that we are the hero and we are almost superhuman, but actually, you know, we're all a bit of an arsehole sometimes.
Well, I mean, that's why I love Elite. I would much rather be Mal Reynolds than Luke Skywalker. I'm not into the hero's journey. I just want to be that dude who's getting by.
Everyone wants to be Luke Skywalker. I don't believe you.
I want to be Mal Reynolds though so bad, especially from that episode, Our Mrs. Reynolds, with what's her name, the redhead. Yeah, never mind. But bringing it back to you, and so you're very new over at Frontier. In fact, you were hired post lockdown. You've never actually been into your office as of yet, right?
I've been in, but I don't know where my desk is. So I've kind of been in to ship some boxes out for some people, but it's it's all new to me. So when I was getting fun poked at me for how messy my desk was on Twitter this week, I was felt a little bit unfair because none of them have actually seen my desk, but they were right. My desk is a mess, but I feel like messy desk, clear mind. I feel like that's my my kind of status quo, and it works for me. We can only concentrate on keeping a certain amount clear.
In fairness to you, if your desk is a mess but you've never been there yet, that's not really your fault.
No, indeed. But it's I started at the end of March. I think my start date was 6 days after lockdown started in the UK. So I turned up at the office. I had to pick up my laptop, and then I took my starting photo, my starting selfie out the front of the office, and then I drove myself home. So it's been quite surreal, and I've got a little one at home, so it's been fun through lockdown, but it's been fantastic. I mean, to come in to Frontier, which is a company that a developer that I admire, and to be able to work on a franchise with this legacy is really a dream. So it's been really, really positive.
Right on. Well, I was super thankful to sort of snag this interview with you, because you haven't even really been sort of officially, there wasn't like a sort of big press release or anything yet. So I think people are seeing you now with these tweets all this week with regard to the new thing. And I'm not going to ask you to comment at all. I'm just going to say my just 2 cents, my harebrained idea is that we're going to continue to get one a day, a picture of this little critter growing in the vat or whatever, until this weekend when Gamescom will be some big flashy new release of some new game or some new thing. And I'm super excited.
The only thing I can tell you is that in spite of the beautiful Elite rank mug, it is not for Elite Dangerous. So if anyone was getting excited on the Elite side, I'm very sorry, but there's so much exciting stuff to come. You don't need to worry about missing out. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up over the next week or two.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm excited not as an Elite player, as an Elite commander. I'm excited just as a lover of Frontier developments and the cool, funky projects you guys come up with. This idea, this whatever this is, I mean, the art style in the pictures or whatever looks to me very much like a sort of a very cool, artsy, point and click, adventure-y story kind of a thing. And I'm not asking you to say anything. I'm just saying I'm excited. I can't wait to see what grows out of that little vat, and stay tuned soon, TM.
It's exciting times for sure.
For sure. All right. So bringing it back to Elite Dangerous, though, I would like to ask you, obviously, sort of, I'm barely known for this little troublesome forum post that I wrote back in February, and a lot of people have commented on, hundreds of people have clicked on the upvote on it, and lots of it's still to this day going. It's on 24 pages or 25 pages, and people from time to time still keep bringing it up, and they won't let it die. That saying sort of hey, story is important to me in a living game, and I just kind of wanted to get, not asking for any specifics or any kind of hey, give me details now that you're not supposed to give or anything like that, but just from a standpoint of, how do you feel, or what do you feel is sort of the importance of story and sort of narrative and lore within the context of a living game, within the context of an MMO such as Elite?
I think lore is important, and lore kind of really sets a foundation for a lot of what happens in game. I do think one of the things which is really powerful with Elite Dangerous is the degree to which the players have set the narrative, and the degree to which things have come on. And you'll have to forgive me, because I will confess that I'm not a historic Elite Dangerous player. This is something that I've kind of come to in fairly recent times. But I mean, looking back at the history of Elite, and looking back at the code blockade at Hutton Orbital, and all of these incredible events that have happened in Elite's past, I think it's really powerful in the way in which the community have set the narrative, and I think there has to be a huge amount of credit that goes to the community. We, in spite of what some people may feel or may voice, we are listening. There are a lot of things that we are working on behind closed doors, and I'm really excited to be able to share something about that in the future. I have nothing to announce today. Sure. But I think it is a really important thing to state, and I think David said it really well on the stream that he did last week, when he was talking about the passion of the fans, and actually the anger, fairly or unfairly, to have a community that is that passionate about a game, we absolutely do not take it for granted. So I think that is really important, and I think as and when we're able to share more, I think people will understand a where the game is at, and B, what we've been doing, what we've been working on. So I think watch this space, keep an eye. Hopefully we'll be able to share something to really excite the community very, very soon.
And on that note, when you're talking about the David Braben, the 10 minutes of the David Braben, the pre-record that they did with Stephen last week, as part of that stream, that hour-long stream, let me tell you, anytime that man is talking, you are selling product. It was just amazing to see him talking, and the light in his eyes and the enthusiasm in his voice when he was talking about, like, there's more people playing Elite right now than ever before. And all of that, when he talks about the good and the bad, he talks openly and plainly and honestly about, hey, these are some frustrations people have, and this is some good thing that's coming, and I'm interested in this, and we're interested in that. And I feel that, Space Legs, Elite Feet, whatever you want to call it, I feel like this is sort of paying off a promise that I made in the Kickstarter. All of that stuff was just absolute pure gold. Anytime David is on screen, you guys are making sales. So he's fantastic, and I think his passion has definitely seen the game grow to what it is. I think there are a lot of people working on Elite Dangerous. And I think he is always very careful to make sure that those guys get a voice as well, and those guys get airtime. And I think that's a really noble trait. But definitely, it was a pleasure to be able to bring that to all of you. And it was very, very, very much appreciated. So let me ask you, how do you want to put your stamp on Elite for the time that you're working as a product manager, or in whatever different capacities you have been or will be in the future working on Elite Dangerous? What do you sort of want to bring to the project, or focus on, or make your mark with?
I think it's always an odd one. I'm a guy who is quite driven by success, but I'm not talking about kind of financials, and I'm talking about an overall package. I want the community to be happy. I want the game to succeed. Obviously, commercially, I think it is an incredibly important thing, and ultimately, if Elite does well commercially, we see more, right? And the game progresses and builds. I think one of the things that the universe has to offer is that it is this really, really rich experience, and whatever we can do to make that even richer. I mean, the things that Odyssey is going to allow players to experience and allow them to do, I think, in the same way that Frontier revolutionized Elite, and Elite Dangerous has revolutionized the traditional game. I think, anything that we can do to enrich that experience and make that go into the future and allow that to be really treasured into the next decade, because it's been going 4 decades now, or close to, so why not make that 5? It's really it's about legacy, I think, and that sounds really cheesy, I know, but I think that's what I look for with every project that I work on. It's kind of, I try and get into the very fibre of whatever game I work on, and really bring that out and bring out its best side. And I think that I like to think we're doing a good job at the moment. I like to think Elite is in its good place, and certainly that has been quite well reflected in terms of numbers recently. So I think in terms of player numbers, and I love seeing more people engage with the universe. I think for me it's been really exciting to be working on a game that has that constant conversation. And I think not that the other games that I haven't worked on haven't deserved that constant conversation, but things have to reach a critical mass, and it's very uncommon for games to do that, being frank. So to work on a game where I can go on Twitter and I can every day I can see amazing user-generated content. I can see these people that have gone out and found these beautiful star systems that just absolutely melt your mind looking at them in a screenshot. I just think that's absolutely incredible. So as long as there are members of the community that are enjoying the game and producing that stuff to keep me going, I'm a very happy man.
Beautiful. Now, okay, we're going to go down the rabbit hole. I'm going to ask you a crazy, weird, question. So just follow me along here and go with it. All right. David Braben comes and knocks on your door and walks into your office in this hypothetical universe. You're in your office and he's there, and he says, "Hey, Al, come to lunch with me. I got an idea. I want to, spitball with you." And he says, I've decided I'm going to chunk in a blank check, all the money, whatever, it's irrelevant. What IP should we sort of drag in, or what where should we go with Elite Dangerous? And he could be like the sky, blank check completely. The sky's the limit. You could go the Star Trek route. You could go Star Wars route. You could go the Expanse route. You could go Foundation. You could go E&M Banks, any kind of whatever. If the sky is the limit and there are no limitations whatsoever, what would you like to see, where would you like to see Elite go?
This is a really tough question. This is really tough, because I'm a sci-fi fan. I will say probably my first and most prominent sci-fi love is Star Wars, as it is with many people, albeit not the new ones. But that is a very long conversation that I could chew your ear off for hours. But I grew up with the prequels, man. So I kind of they've got a place in my heart, and I can fully acknowledge their sins. But for me, they're sacred in the same way that for the original trilogy is, but the new ones can go in the bin. But I think do you know the IP that I think, and it has been tested a lot in terms of games, but I don't feel like anyone's ever quite got there with it, is Battlestar Galactica.
Oh,
because I love it, and I have to say, and I'm sorry if you were a fan of the original, I tried watching it, I can't. It's too, like, the dog and all that. I really struggle with it, but I love the 2004 series with Cara Thrace and Edward James Olmos playing Adama, and that really I think it comes back to something that we were discussing earlier, and it comes back to that intensity to the game or to the series. And I think if you can create something which channels that intensity, and I think probably the closest thing that's come to it and obviously it's a very simplified proposition, but I got that level of stress and intensity playing FTL. Yeah. And from there, I just think that Battlestar Galactica, with the way in which they handle jumps, I just think it's fantastic. So I think it has been revisited multiple times, but I think it deserves to be revisited again and again.
And the narrative sort of writes itself with regard to the Elite universe of, the Thargoids come, they burn the bubble, we have to run on our fleet carriers, we're going jump to jump, and we're being harassed every step along the way, and we're just trying to sort of strike out, get away, and sort of find some safe place to restart humanity. Absolutely. Like it would, oh my God, it would be.
But also, wouldn't you love to see a Colonial Viper in Elite? I think the Colonial Viper is one of the sexiest ships ever in sci-fi. I mean, the tube launches. Yes. I don't need to say anything more than that. Really.
Yeah, well, okay. There's three ships that it's like, okay, if I can get this, the Colonial Viper, right? The Star Fury from Babylon 5, or the very similar to that actually is the what was the name, the Death Blossom ship from the last Starfighter. Yeah, any of those three. If Frontier tomorrow said, oh, by the way, on the Arc store, it's $30, but you can make your Viper Mark III look like a Colonial Viper. I shut up and take my money. Yes, please.
It's an incredible ship. I mean, I think I would like to see almost, and this maybe is slightly controversial. I'd love to see things using the Cobra engine and doing something outside of the world of Elite with some of these IPs. I think that would be really cool from my perspective. But but there are some incredible ships within Elite as well. I mean, not that I'm trying to be an ad boy or anything, but I love the Fer-de-Lance. I think it's such an awesome ship.
Oh yeah. All right, I'm gonna throw this one out here. I'm just gonna say it now and let you marinate on it for another couple minutes while we talk about other stuff. But I want to give you an opportunity to flip the script. Okay, people are going to be listening to this on the podcast, and they can come on to the Elite Week Discord and they can respond back in the community feedback section. And people that are watching this on YouTube could, of course, go into the comment section and write whatever to respond. But I'm going to give you the opportunity, Al, to ask a question of our viewers and listeners and see, what people think. So I'm just going to throw that out there now, and then I'm going to ask you the next question. We'll talk, and then we'll come back to this, and we'll let you sort of, what do you want to ask the Elite Dangerous community? All right. So now this is a no spoilers question. I'm not asking like, hey, tell me about the new kind of SLF, or tell me about the new SRVs, or tell me about the blah, blah, blah. This isn't that. As a concept, as a general sort of thing, no spoilers. what are you most looking forward to in Odyssey? Whether it be, how people interact with things, or on the exploration side, or weird, sort of combat things, or just whatever. From a conceptual level, what are you super? I know right now, we were just talking, you're literally in the process of working on edits and whatever for the next dev diary, or you guys are getting all your stuff together and you're whatever. There's got to be something from between now and launch that you're like, okay, this is what I'm sort of most excited for, how the game is going to change this way or that way or whatever.
It's really hard to pinpoint one thing.
Okay.
It's I think it's a holistic experience, and I think that for me personally, I really like the exploration side. I really like and I think that's what comes back to that user generated content, and seeing what people find that we had no idea was there. And I think that's the beauty of a simulated game, and I use the term simulated rather than procedural, just on a kind of, I'm not looking for a Tyrannosaurus Rex with chicken legs or something like that. It has to be grounded, and I think that kind of brings something wonderful to the game, and I want to see what people find. I want to see what atmospheres people find, what organics people find, what all of these combinations culminating, coming together. It's really exciting for me to see the user generated content coming out of the game, because for me that never gets old.
Yeah, I mean, you can spit out 1 billion planets easy in a proc gen system, a la. And I don't mean to denigrate anyone else's work, but I mean, you can get No Man's Sky type situations where it's like, the computer spits out random answers for these 800 factors and it generates whatever, and you have weird sort of amoeba looking things flying through the sky and whatever, and it's like, all right, that science sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love these games. I love anything that is opening people's minds to stars above us,
right?
And encouraging them to go out and explore. And I can understand the appeal in kind of some of the more abstract stuff. So I think all credit to those guys and what they've done with what has ultimately been a pretty compact team. So I can't knock it at all. I just think for me personally, I really like the simulation and the realism within Elite, and you get more of a kind of feel of humanity within Elite as well. From my perspective, I feel like the civilizations and the way in which the players have driven the narrative of those civilizations over the past 6 years, I think, just adds such a layer of depth, But
there's a percentage, or there's a higher factor of sort of scientific realism with regard to flight mechanics and with regard to the way different planets are generated in the atmospheres and the minerals and the this, that, and the other, and all of the Stellar Forge work and the amazing stuff that Dr. K and many other just beautiful minds out there put together it's other, not to denigrate other work. Like, their other works are great. Everything is great in the spectrum, and play what you like. But Elite is, to my way of thinking, sort of a cut above the rest because of the core value that science plays with regard to realism.
It's a unique experience. I think the ambition that's gone into it to create this or recreate this one-to-one Milky Way, I think is something that it would have been easy to shy away from. And I'm not necessarily saying that is what has happened, because I think, Elite was the game that chose to pursue that. But I think, it would have been easy 7 years ago to go down a different route. But all credit to the team that started this, because I think it's a really unique proposition to players, and I start getting fascinated with real constellations and things. I'm going to start flying some. I think I've got an aspiration to. There's a Bowie constellation. He's one of my kind of all-time heroes, and there's kind of a Ziggy Stardust lightning bolt, and that's on my list to actually fly that constellation. But I need to get my Guardian frameshift drive booster, because otherwise it's going to take me an awful long time. But that's very much on my list.
Beautiful. All right, so now it's time for Al's question, where Al gets to flip the script and ask a question of us. And whatever question you ask, I'll go ahead and get my answer in on the record now. But then I want to hear from other people what they think, so they can answer you as well.
Gosh, I'm having to clear my mind now from what we've just been talking about. Try and go back. What would I like to ask the community? I think what I'd really like to know, is where would you like to see Elite in 5 years' time?
Okay. So I'm gonna answer this for me, and then we'll see what the community thinks as well. There's a lot of things, that were talked about with regard to, stuff from the spoiler, whatever thing, the leak or whatever you want to call it, where it's like, base building and there's different aspects of, like, part of me would love to see, different sort of variations of trade, the ability to sort of build things. I love the concept of going out and, gathering materials and then having some player base building that includes sort of resource gathering sites and then production sites, and then you build modules and you get blueprints and you take those modules and you sell them, you make trade with other players, and all of that stuff seems super, super cool. The idea of, like, first person shooters, that's not really my thing, but I know there's a lot of people that love that. And for me, I spent 8 years as a recon Marine. I don't enjoy games where you shoot at people. That's just but it's my personal thing. I know that that's a huge market out there, that people that love that, just not for me. But I love the FPS, not FPS, but FP without the S stuff, of the idea of doing an EVA and doing repairs, or going out on foot and collecting minerals, or using the field sampler to engage in a little exobotany. And I'm intrigued by the fact that you didn't call it exobotany. You guys called it exobiology, which to me indicates not only flora, but also fauna, which could be anything from, fungus and slugs and small, rodents, all the way up to megafauna. There's amazing stuff. But everything that I just said, all of that stuff is a vast, it comes in way, way, way behind as a number 2 and number 3 and number whatever, to two very important pillars. The first is realism of the generation of the world, i.e., what you guys showed off in this. I know marketing speak, first step or first leap or big step or whatever the marketing speak was for that dev diary that we got last week. To me, that dev diary in my head is called Planetary Tech Demo. And let me tell you something, as a planetary tech demo, that was the most exciting, the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. There's a player, Commander DJ Wiley, who put out a video where he went to the planets that you guys...
I've seen it. I've seen this. We actually circulated this around our publishing chat group in the office. Yes. And it's incredible. It's it really, I mean, we know the level of work and the level of attention to detail that the planetary team are putting into this stuff, and kind of we know that they are a fantastic team. We know they're doing great work, but to see that side by side and actually like have it laid bare in front of you, it is incredible, and it really will bring such a change to the game. It's really exciting.
Yes. So for me, the two pillars of where I want Elite to be in 5 years. The first pillar is the generation of real interaction possibilities, i.e., most importantly, continuing along the spectrum of atmospheric landing. So right now we have non-atmospheric worlds that you can land on. We have tenuous atmospheric, both sort of what I call Mars-like worlds. And I want to be clear, this is Mars as in today, not Mars as in the game time, because in game time, Mars is a fully atmospheric sort of Earth-like world that it has terraformed and whatnot. But Mars-like rocky worlds. And it's not just rocky worlds, because those rocky worlds, like one of the worlds from the video was a high metal content world, but it's just rocky in appearance, rocky worlds, and ice planets, which are those look so gorgeous. But 5 years from now, I want to see that spectrum continue to include, gas giants, water worlds, Earth-like worlds, and then continue along that spectrum with, you have already fauna. Flora. I would love to see, generation 2 of flora, which is sort of more consistent, like a larger area, landmass maybe, and then type 3 of flora generation would sort of be sort of interactive ecosystems, maybe that kind of a situation, and then fauna, generation 1 herbivores, generation 2 predators, generation 3 megafauna, weather effects with regard to the different in all of the different terrain types. So that's the first pillar. I want to see continue along the atmospheric landing spectrum. I would love to see that continue, like, as the number one priority. And at the same time, the other side of it, story, narrative and lore. You can make the most gorgeous universe ever, but if you ignore the precious gift that is the lore and narrative sort of built up value in the intellectual property that is Elite Dangerous, it will be at great detriment to the intellectual property as an ongoing sort of value. So that's my answers. Where do I see it in 5 years? All along that atmospheric landing sort of spectrum, and with continuing story arcs that tie in, not just like, oh, we made a thing and here's the story for today, but like a sort of a longer, there was a long sort of story arc back in the early sort of Thargoid Guardian times, where there were lots of different sort of branches off of things that made it feel like a true living universe. So those two things are where I absolutely want to go. And then my Brucey bonus, my silly little extra whatever to ribbon to tie it all up in a bow would be, let us interact with some, and not anytime soon. This is way down the road for me, but after the atmospheric stuff, whatever, 3-4 years from now, let us meet some aliens that we don't immediately shoot at. Let us meet some aliens where we get to, what if we were to find some alien race that they are also sort of victims of / oppressed by the Thargoids, and now they're refugees. They're a refugee race, and we as pilots can take our data of okay, we found these kinds of different atmospheric planets or these kinds of whatever, and find like worlds that we can sort of encourage them to land on, and then we can run missions to support them, where like we're bringing them water, or where even if whatever they don't drink water, they drink methane, whatever, we're bringing them whatever it is they need so that they can rebuild their society. I think David Braben has done a beautiful sort of thing throughout the history of his games in general, whether you're talking about Planet Zoo or different things in Elite, where he likes to highlight sort of moral questions and questions of conservation or ecology or what have you. And I think that the idea is very, very relevant today of how do you deal with the displaced? How do you deal with refugees in a humane and constructive way? And I think that could just be a sort of a beautiful thing.
Good answer.
I went off.
There's a lot to break down in there, man.
Yeah,
there's a lot to break down.
I wonder what other people will think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we hear all of that. There are lots of things that I can't tell you.
Sure.
Right now, for obvious reasons. But we do listen. I mean, I think we always have our ear to the ground on social, on the forum, I'm constantly on the subreddit, and I actually when I started at Frontier, two of my best mates are big Elite Dangerous fans, so they don't let me forget things. So rest assured that whatever meme appears on Reddit is getting delivered straight to my WhatsApp. No, I think there's some really exciting stuff coming. I think the narrative. I can't share any details. But
no, of course.
It's something which we are very aware of, and we are actively engaged with. So I think lots of the community will be very happy moving forward with that. I think one of the things that I just wanted to come back to from your answer when you were talking about first-person shooter gameplay, and I think one of the things which is a really nice thing about Odyssey is this isn't Destiny. And that's not to say that I don't love Destiny. I think it's incredible, and I think the FPS play within that is phenomenal. I think Bungie have done an incredible job there. But I think the gunplay within Odyssey, people will be really excited when they see it, and I think people will appreciate that it is a component of a very, very wide branching experience. There are in the same way that Elite Dangerous traditionally offers you choice as a player, and it offers you that route if you want to be a pirate, or you want to just trade, or you want to go out and discover. All of these things are part of that experience. But I think Elite is dangerous. This is another core part of the experience, and I think there's what's been put so well into the name in this in the 2014 iteration is that you are at the mercy of the world around you. You are at risk, and I think you need to be ready for that. I mean, I posted a screen grab where I'd blurred out the commanders' names, but I was just running a little trade run the other week, and I jumped into the system. So I kind of had my home base, and I got hit immediately as soon as I came in, and I kind of, lots of people kind of would sit there and go, "Oh, this is unfair," but the skill level of some of the commanders out there, and the way in which they can take down ships in an instant, and if you're not ready, then you are punished. And I just think, I take my hat off to all of the players out there that reach that level of skill that they can just annihilate players in an instant. I think you've got to be ready. So allowing people to walk around in first person without arms doesn't really fit. So I'm really excited to see what aspects of the game the players embrace the most when Odyssey launches.
It strikes me that a lot of the stuff in if you remember back soon after the initial posting in June of the Odyssey trailer, the first sort of teaser trailer. Tim posted on the Elite forums sort of some breakdown, some comprehensive information of, hey, these are some things that are coming. And it struck me from several of the points on that post that I generated an overall conceptual feeling that you guys are focusing a lot on player with player sort of activities. There was stuff talking about social hubs. There was stuff talking about integrated missions that commanders could do. Sort of, I made it almost sound, and I'm not trying to fish, but it made it sound almost like a raid type situation in some other MMOs where you're going to have a large group of people that, like, some will be on foot and doing X part of the mission, and some will be, in their SRVs doing a Y part of the mission, and some will be in their ships doing Z part of the mission. It talked about some sort of coordinated operations or whatever. And there were several other key little factors where it's like, oh, if you take this point, this is talking about players with players. And then this point is sort of also getting back from a different direction, talking about players with players. And this point, the same. And this point, the same. There was a lot of player with player references there. And it seems like you guys are aiming to sort of kick it up a notch on the interactivity and the ability of, people to sort of, Elite has always been this sort of weird straddling this line between a single player game and an MMO, in the sense that there has been a lot of people that sort of just play in solo mode, and they play it like the Elite from 1984, where, like, I'm in my own little universe, whatever. But it seems like you guys are really trying to sort of entice and bring people into open, or bring people into to groups, or at least where they're getting into combined player activities. And I dig that.
I have this mantra that's kind of come up in my mind, and no one will have seen it anywhere yet, but it sits there in the back of my mind, and it says, together we are elite. And I think, the community coming together, the way in which, they coordinate, even at the level that they do right now with what's in the game right now, things like Distant Worlds, is such a incredible coordinated effort. Things like, community groups like the Fuel Rats or Hutton Orbital Truckers. I think, the things that these guys do are pretty incredible, and I think it's very much part of our philosophy that we want to embrace that, and we want to bring players together. I think one other thing that Elite does really well is there's you've kind of got the loneliness of space juxtaposed with the kind of imposing expansion of humanity, and those factions and the way in which they grow and they aggress. And I find that an incredibly interesting dynamic. And I think, that is something that we're going to see explored in the future. So I think, there's incredible stuff within the world, and I think they're very much embracing playing together, and human interaction is very much there.
Mm. And that when you couple that sort of focus on group play and sort of groups doing things together, along with the sort of enticing sort of very, very, I'm excited statement that David Braben made late last year at the investment dinner, where he talked about, he made a public statement about that Odyssey will constitute or will, I guess, represent a significant refresh of the underlying code base. I am super excited about the possibility of sort of more stable functionality with sort of instancing in larger groups, or different sort of cleaning up of some spaghetti code issues with regard to wing and or multi-crew sort of whatever. I'm not asking you to give details. I'm just saying I'm excited for what some of Odyssey may represent in sort of refining and cleaning up stuff that allows us to better engage with each other out among the stars.
I'm excited.
Yes.
I think we are all very much excited. I don't have anything to share at this moment, but I think it's almost short of being on the project here in 2014 when it was coming through its Kickstarter phase and it was coming to market. I think for me this is the most exciting time to be part of Elite. I mean, I think the kind of the full scale that it's coming through to, and the fact that as Piers put when we were interviewing him for the first dev diary, talking about being able to go from one end of the galaxy to the other, and then now being able to get out of your ships and actually explore. I think that it is completing a big part of the puzzle. I mean, I totally hear what you're saying in terms of unlocking those gas planets, unlocking water bodies. I think that would be really exciting. But I think the leaps that are happening in Odyssey, I think are phenomenal. I'm really, really excited to see what players make of them.
Absolutely. And to be absolutely crystal clear, I wasn't saying like, oh, well, I'm holding my fingers crossed that the next dev diary is going to have gas planets or water worlds. Like, no, that was in reference to you're asking me, where do we
no, sure. 5
years, like down the line. Yeah.
No, I get that. I mean, I think, it's if you're building a galaxy sim, we are there are a long list of definitely things that we would like to do, and we're working our way through them.
Al, this has been a lovely chat. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come in and visit with us and give the players, the commanders out there in the world, sort of the opportunity to get a peek into your mindset. I want to leave with two things. First is a cheeky question, and then I'm going to leave a cheeky, wild ass guess that is in no way something that you're confirming or representing or whatever. It's just my tinfoil theory. So my cheeky question is, just the other day I was talking to Sally Morgan Moore, and she had said that I absolutely must ask you, and I did not warn you that this question was coming at all. So here we go. What's your favorite biscuit?
What's my favorite biscuit? That is a difficult question.
See, the way she said it seemed really, really cheeky. I thought that it might be like there's an inside story here between you and her, that there's some biscuit story that might be a whatever. But this was just, she was just, I guess, genuine.
I think we've probably trashed biscuits together on Twitter at some point, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Well, that we were talking about, but I think I don't know. I really like a chocolate digestive. Does that make me boring?
No, that sounds plenty good. But so for Americans out there, a biscuit is a cookie. We're talking about what's your favorite cookie, and I think that the correct answer is the Thin Mints that the Girl Scouts sell. But hey, whatever. That could be also sort of like that along those lines.
I don't. It doesn't translate for me.
They're these thin little chocolate digestive type cookies that have there's a little bit of a light mint something in between, almost like a peppermint patty type.
Yeah.
But it's light. It's not heavy. It's mostly just like a chocolate digestive, like you were saying. All right, my last cheeky thing. This is my wild ass tinfoil theory. From your first dev diary, we heard David Braben say the Neil Armstrong moment, and we heard Pierce say the Neil Armstrong moment, and we heard even one of the art guys say the Neil Armstrong moment, and of course we had Steven hop in with the Neil Armstrong moment. And my wild ass tinfoil theory, super, super cheeky, but here it comes. If you guys unlock in Odyssey the Earth's moon, and if you give us the opportunity as commanders to actually stand on our moon and look up at the Earth in the night sky and to see it shining above us as humans have never sort of, other than a very, very few and select, and highly sort of scrutinized group of individuals have gotten the opportunity to do. But if you give us the real opportunity to have the Neil Armstrong moment and to see our beautiful home planet in the night sky, I would ask that you do one favor for me. Please lock the first boots on the ground as Neil Armstrong. Do not make that gettable by anyone else.
You couldn't give that to anyone else.
No, it would have to go to Neil.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the kind of the setting of Elite is very much a continuation of our world. So I don't think you could open that up at all. Absolutely.
All right. Al, it has been lovely. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing people's responses to your question with regard to you're saying, where do you want to see Elite in 5 years? What do you want to see added to the game? What are you excited for? So hopefully a lot of people will hit us up with responses on that. Thank you so much, Al.
Thank you.